foot, left foot, oh, one, left foot, left foot, up, order, oh, post, colors. Freeze it, arms.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, cloud bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave.
160 years ago, on April 9th, we surrendered to Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the Civil War. Somewhere between 620 and 850,000, with the current estimate about 750,000 Americans died in the Civil War. And 250 years ago, on April 19th, we suffered our first war dead at the town of Lexington, Massachusetts during the Battle of Lexington and Concord. An estimated 25,000 Americans gave their lives establishing our country. Today you'll hear from a couple of old Vietnam veterans. Mayor Laurel served as a nurse in the Navy during the war. Welcome, Navy Lieutenant Nan Miller.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to join you today during this Memorial Day remembrance in our peaceful cemetery in our beautiful town on this gorgeous day. Every time I visit here and walk past the graves of those that are lying to rest here, I'm struck by the number of veterans that we have buried here, and you can recognize their graves because of the American flags that have been placed on each of those graves today. I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity to spend a great deal of time with my father-in-law, George Worrell. When he was 16, he dropped out of high school because he wanted nothing more than to have a career in the United States Navy. Excuse my voice that doesn't like these beautiful trees that are blooming. His mother gave consent for him to enlist when he was 17, but he almost didn't make it because he couldn't pass the physical. See, it turns out at that time, you had to have 26 teeth in order to enlist. And according to the Navy dentist, he only had 24. So he was devastated that he wasn't going to be able to serve his country the way he wanted to. So he had an epiphany several days later when he figured out he had 4 wisdom teeth that hadn't poked through yet. So he went back to the recruiter, back to the dentist, and sure enough, he had 28 teeth, which allowed him to join the Navy. During his long career in the Navy, he served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He entered as a seaman and retired as a lieutenant commander. I'm so incredibly proud of him, and my husband, his eldest son, is wearing the hat that he proudly wore for so many years, commemorating the service that he gave to our nation. You know, I think the men and women so long ago who imagined the holiday that we now call Memorial Day knew what they were doing when they've had it this time of year. It's a time of renewal and strength after a long winter. They must have imagined all the flowers in bloom, 1 million or more representing those lost in battles here and on almost every continent around the globe. They must have imagined the opportunity to tell the stories of the past to the American people who will pass these stories on to the children of tomorrow. Today, throughout our nation, we gather at cemeteries, monuments, and parks, march in parades in cities big and small. We do these things to honor the loyalty and bravery of our fallen in this notable calling, military service. While this day is typically spent recalling the valor of men and women who died in combat, we must never forget the quiet professionals who answered the noble calling to serve the people of the United States in peacetime as well as wartime. The history of our nation and those who serve can be summed up in a short and simple yet very fitting phrase. They are ordinary people who by virtue of their service and sacrifice are extraordinary. On Memorial Day, a tradition dictates that the Stars and Stripes are raised briskly against the wind to the top of the staff and then solemnly lowered to the position of half-staff, where it remains until only noon. It is then raised to full staff for the remember of the day. The half-staff position of the flag remembers the more than 1 million women and men who gave their lives in service to our nation. At noon, their memory is raised by the living who resolve not to let their sacrifice be in vain, but to rise up in their stead and continue the fight for liberty. So many mothers and wives, husbands and fathers, extended family and friends do their duty every day to ensure their loved one is remembered. They carry on each day with pictures on mantles and mementos of a life not fully lived. They carry on understanding that their soldier chose this life of service, and thus they understand the potentiality of her death. These men and women left behind carry on their soldier's message, raising up their memory. Today we also honor the families of those lost, for you bear a burden that only you can comprehend. We are grateful for the love and support you gave your soldier so that they could carry out the mission of protecting the rest of us. It is our responsibility as citizens to remember the nation's brave fallen men and women, whether they died on foreign lands, in the heat of battle, or after a lifetime in the uniforms of our armed forces. Never forget the men and women who knew all too much the cost of our freedom, for their service to this country is the greatest gift of all. Again, thank you for inviting me to be part of this ceremony. God bless those deployed today in harm's way, providing the rest of us the opportunity to enjoy this beautiful day. God bless our nation during these challenging times, and God bless each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lieutenant Miller. I've been involved in this Memorial Day ceremony for about 14 years now. And I usually ask people during the ceremony to, if you have anybody you'd like to remember, if there's anyone here, raise your hand, just shout out their name, tell us anything you'd like to about that particular person. Go right ahead.
A friend of mine killed in Marine Barracks in October 1983.
Killed in Marine Barracks, 1983. Anyone else?
Sergeant Jae Moon from South Korea came here and enlisted, died in Iraq in 2005.
Iraq, 2005.
Lieutenant Colonel Willis was on the C-5, pulling babies out of Vietnam. The pressure door blew out, crashed in Vietnam. A lot of people survived. He didn't.
That would have been 75. Anyone else?
Carl Workman.
Carl Workman, I remember him well. Tell us more.
He survived. World War II vet and a miner in town.
as I remember, he was on the invasion of Saipan, which created the air base from which Enola Gay took off to end World War II. Anyone else?
My dad, Lieutenant Commander Roger Myers, United States Navy, A4 pilot, killed in Vietnam on his last mission before the ship was turning home. My mom had a 1-month-old baby and myself at 7, so always remembered.
What year was that?
1969.
1969, Vietnam. Yes.
Captain Joseph Fillerub, World War II, commanded a people, and every mission he would go out, and they finally said, "Why are you keep on going out?" And he goes, "I know I'm going to come back." He was a very religious man and knew that he would be protected. He had a blessing before he went into the army, saying that he would return from the army. So every mission and mission after mission, he was the only one that came back.
Anyone else? Yes, over here.
My dad, Horace Ray Taylor, served in the Midway, and my mom was
On the Midway and Rosie the Rivet, her mom.
right.
Good family there. Anyone else?
My brother, Fabian Carroll, was an 18-year-old Marine radio operator, served in battle of the Chosin Reservoir.
Chosin Reservoir. That was 52, I believe. Anyone else? Yes.
My cousin, Leslie Schaefer, died at age 18 in Vietnam in the arms of Ollie North.
Another Vietnam casualty. Anyone else?
My cousin Norm was in Vietnam in the late 60s. Her son was
August 2003, Iraq. Anyone else?
Lance Corporal Stan Childers, Vietnam, 1967.
Vietnam, 1967. Anyone else? Yes.
Kristen Armstrong, my mother-in-law, served, sorry, in the Marines and also on Midway and Lieutenant. And my father, Maurice Joseph Wilkinson, was on a PT boat during the King bomb test.
A couple of World War II and post-World War II then. Anyone else? Last call. Go ahead.
Lieutenant Henry Gardner Talmadge, USAF.
Thank you. Yes.
Anthony David Dalton, my brother, who fought in Vietnam, came back, had cancer, and he died at 52 with bodily cancer from Vietnam.
I have a friend like that I served with also. Lieutenant Dwayne Becker died of Agent Orange disease in 95. Anyone else? Yes, two more back there.
Lieutenant Chris Moscow served in the United States Navy, explosive ordnance disposal, died in 2012, routine patrol in Afghanistan.
Afghanistan, 2012. In the back. That was it. Okay. All right, I have a few more names to mention here. From history, John Brown, Samuel Hadley, Caleb Harrington, Jonathan Harrington, Robert Monroe, Isaac Muzzy, Asahel Porter, and Jonas Parker. These are the 8 Minutemen who died at Lexington, April 19, 1975, during the Battle of Lexington. 1775. What did I say, man? Yeah, 1775. 250 years ago. The first Americans to die for our country. My second commemoration are a few folks that I call the unknown POWs. In August 1971, Special Forces operations out of Khartoum were called to plan a rescue for POWs at a high-altitude karst in Laos. Special Forces team leads and Air Force assets received preliminary brief and were told they would get more details the following day, just before the launch. On the next day, they were told the mission was canceled. They found out we were coming. The POWs had been moved. There are still 280 MIAs that remain unaccounted for in Laos, and we know their names. At this time, 50 years later, it's unlikely that any are alive, and they probably didn't even survive the war. What we don't know is the names of those POWs that we failed to rescue that day. From the number of helicopters assigned to the mission, I would guess that there were from 10 to 30 POWs. On Memorial Day, in addition to my friends and squadron mates who were lost serving our country, I remember those unknown POWs. We will now have the retrieval of the colors and taps by the Summit County Sheriff's Department. We're ready for you, Sheriff's Honor Guard.
Freeze it! Out! Retrieve!